Shedeur Sanders. I've had him at 19 for a while now. There's varying grades. Some people have him higher than me. I feel like a decent amount of people I talk to kind of have him in the same range as me, talking about people inside the league. And there's a handful of people, and it's been reported by other outlets and other individuals that some people have second round grades on. Okay. And that's fine too. But for the first time in this entire process, dating back to our very first show on October 22nd, I truly believe Shedeur Sanders is not going to be a top 5 pick. Now, I want to remind you on Monday, we said it. We started this conversation. I'm proud of us for that. And we said on Monday, it's not looking likely. And again, I'm not breaking news. Like, I haven't talked to Brian or Joe with the Giants, and I haven't talked to Stefanski. I haven't talked to Andrew Berry with the Browns. They haven't told me anything. Of course not. We're not breaking news here. But we told you on Monday the winds are shifting. Okay. And we applied football logic to it. We said at that point, and I want to hammer this home, okay? And I'm saying this for a reason, because these are the conversations I'm actually having with people in the league. And that's the part that's interesting. I think people who have people assume, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think people assume it's like, hey, Johnny, how's it going? How's your family? How's your job as the assistant GM or the GM or the director of college? All right, so give me your board. Who do you like? What are your needs? Like, those are not how the conversations go.
Right.
Conversations are football conversations. They start out like, what do you think on this guy? I'm struggling with this guy. Have you heard of this thing about the character? And then they just start going from there. And then usually the questions I get back, what are you hearing? What are you hearing at 3? What are you hearing at 2? I'm hearing this. And then, I'm hearing this. And so it's just, they're organic conversations. But the thing that always happens during these conversations is that you apply football logic to things. And the conversations I'm having continue to surround this subject. You got a certain grade on Travis Hunter, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got a certain grade on Abdul Carter. That certain grade, just by everyone's account, even when Tennessee came out in the beginning, we said 4 guys, the 2 position players that were mentioned in there were Abdul and Travis. You read everything, you hear all the quotes. It's Travis and Abdul and Travis. Well, if Cam Ward goes number 1 and you're sitting there at 2 and 3 and you have a quarterback need, you better have a damn high grade on Shedeur, or else football logic tells you just take one of these blue players.
Right.
Blue guys are guys you think can be perennial Pro Bowl type players. That's kind of the description. They're stars. They're difference makers, right?
Right.
And
do you think
Go ahead.
Do you think you're a Shedeur Sanders away from being a Super Bowl contender if you're one of those teams? I mean, that's what it really comes down to. Like, you have to believe in him that much. You have to believe that he can win Super Bowls for you to take him over. It can't be, we're just going to get a little bit better in the quarterback room here. That can't be the move. You know what I mean? It can't be like, we have a need, so we're going to get a little bit better here. That's not what you use those picks for. That's not how those are used.
And I usually keep these conversations we have. I come in kind of hot, like I'm hearing Shedeur could go 3, or the Giants could do, and people, and I'm getting kind of like, would you take him if you had Abdul sitting in your lap or Travis? Right. That's kind of the flow of these conversations, just to kind of peel back the curtain a little bit. So the winds were starting to shift, and we felt it on Monday, right? And then you look at like what we were saying kind of matched our evaluation, and the evaluation most people had, and even the people who are higher on Shedeur, the evaluation and the grade don't match up with Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter and their grade and their evaluation. I think that's pretty consensus, right?
I would think so.
So logic would tell you that it feels a little desperate to take a player that you got as a red, if you will, or a 3rd tier or whatever it is, over this guy's going to be a star, right? And then we even mentioned on Monday, like the FanDuel odds, and let's look at those. And all of a sudden, like, those had shifted. Like it's like the Santa Ana wins, right? Is that right? Santa Ana wins?
Yeah, I think so.
Something like that. Meanwhile, we got all these
Tucker
folks
says yes.
Tucker and everyone
Yeah, we got all the
out in California right now. They're like, bozos. We got the winds coming down from Maine, the Gulf of Maine. That's what we're used to. But it also led me to this, right? And side note, as I'm having these conversations, and we started the conversations on Monday, and I'm having more conversations. I've seen just recently, like Schefter now is like, I don't know that. And like, we're not in the information business, and no one has a report. No one's reporting anything.
Right.
It's the same kind of like an Albert Breer. It's to say, like, start from all the conversations and people I'm talking to, it doesn't start not quite adding up. But so I think those are important things to keep in mind here. I also thought about this. I think we're looking at the right things in social media and the right tips and the right stuff out of Shedeur's camp. I don't know that we're always reading it the right way.
Interesting.
Right? Because it's interesting to me that Shedeur's camp, the messaging, it started to change recently. No one's talked about this. Okay. What was the messaging in October and November and December? You tell me. What was Prime's? What was the messaging coming out of Shedeur's camp
about where they're going to control where they go?
Exactly.
And he's not going to go. Yeah. Okay.
Tell me.
A roller coaster.
Paraphrase. When October, November, December, what was the messaging coming? Just paraphrase it for me.
From Coach Prime, it was, my son's not going to play just anywhere. We're going to put him in a good situation to win. And basically it was like, don't try me. I mean, that's what I am paraphrasing, but basically he was like, don't try me. Don't draft them. If you don't, if we tell you not to draft them, don't draft them.
Right. And so, and then I go to the combine, we go to the combine, and I have a couple conversations, and I've made it perfectly clear. I'll never reveal who they were with. They were with individuals who were in the interview room that were in the teams that were drafting in the top 10 that had quarterback needs. And paraphrasing this as well, just didn't get the sense that Shedeur cared all that much about what we thought of him. Wasn't like that. Wasn't that kind of meeting. Wasn't disrespectful. Nothing was said. Wouldn't even classify it as arrogance. Would classify it as just as different than all the other interviews we do, where it feels like a job interview. Everything's
going through the motions, maybe.
Yeah, just hey, here, having fun. What's up? How we
nice
doing?
to meet you. Yeah.
Yep. So we got all of that pre-combine, then the combine, the conversations that I had at the combine with those individuals. And it's like, what did I say coming out? I was like, they must know, because it wouldn't be very smart to start reducing that pool.
Right.
Supply, demand.
Don't close doors, man.
Don't close doors. But it was interesting then, right? Because all of a sudden, Cleveland, you see Shedeur with the Browns hat on it in one picture somewhere. Then I started the conversation. I'm glad we had this conversation. I think I had the wrong scent, which is fine. It's fun to do, but it's also, it led us to a really good conversation when he came out and there was the pictures and he was doing the watch up and sending the love over to Travis Bazzana, their Major League Baseball team.
Mm-hmm.
I guess he's a star in the making. Had to Google him. Like, you should Google the McShay report. But I think it got us on the wrong scent, but it led to some interesting conversations about Stefanski and Andrew Berry and what Stefanski needs and how they have to win now. They don't have money to do it, but they are going to need someone on their rookie contract to develop. How do you do all those things? What is Stefanski won with? Pocket passing, not mobile, not the biggest arms, processors, fast. Shedeur's all those things. You know who else is all those things? Kirk Cousins.
Okay.
And he's done it with them. And I also want to remind you, my very first conversation that I had with you on this show, when I was coming out with the first mock draft, I said the information I'm getting is that Cleveland doesn't believe their long-term answer is here at number 2. And I'm hearing a lot of, so remember, you're like, don't get those poor Brown fans going. Kirk Cousins, yes. The answer. But I said this back in January. I promise I did. And I'm not here doing this. I'm telling you, I sniffed out the wrong information already. Like, I'll tell you when I'm wrong, and I'll tell you when. And again, this could all be a smokescreen, and Shedeur could be the pick. I'm just saying, it feels like the winds are shifting.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm telling you how this whole thing has gone through. So now, instead of like playing it cool and sticking, I stopped hearing Coach Prime coming out and being like, we're going to put him where we want. And I started seeing on Instagram and social media that Browns hat. Shedeur's wearing a Browns hat. Shedeur, Travis Bazzana. New York Giants stuff throughout this process. Little hints and posts and different things. Then Prime saying, and then having to retract, but saying we really want it to be New York in some interview that he was at, some conference that he was at, right?
Right.
Then the Shedeur pick with Geno Smith after he became a Raider.
Mm-hmm.
Raiders pick at 6. Then Prime most recently coming out before he got that massive contract extension, but I think it was at the Big 12 Pro Day, wherever it was, very recently in the last week or two, saying we'd be I'm happy and comfortable with any team that's drafting early in the first round. That's a big shift, man.
Yeah, it is.
We've vetted all these teams that need a quarterback drafted in the top 10, and I'm comfortable with all of them. That's not the message that was coming out of Team Shedeur's camp in October and November and December. Okay? So you look at this, and it just makes me feel like maybe they suddenly have realized that they don't hold the cards at this poker table. And it's starting to feel a little like, hey, look at me, Des. Like, yep, wherever you want. Yep, we're good. That's fine. Right?
Yeah. We said this after the combine, man. Don't overestimate your value. You put yourself in a real bad spot.
And I don't think, and I've said this for a long time, if it's not 2 to Cleveland, if it's not 3 to the Giants, I don't think it's the Jets at 7. And I don't think it's the Raiders at 6. I think I think those teams could look quarterback with their 2nd pick, or maybe in the Raiders' case, their 3rd pick, if it's Will Howard with Chip Kelly. And so now we're sitting, if this is how it plays out, and I'm starting to truly believe this is how it's going to play out. We're sitting at pick 8 and Carolina's there. And,
really?
And Abdul and Travis have gone 2 and 3, and I want to get to that in a second. Okay. But they got a blue player. They got an elite player. Those two teams got their elite position player. Okay. And now we're sitting there at 8 in your Carolina. And yeah, I got an edge need. But maybe Jalen Walker's gone. Maybe is it Michael here?
Pretty good class.
And then the phone starts ringing because everyone knows the Saints could be taking a quarterback or not. Right?
So who's coming up?
So it got me thinking, what would it cost? Because I don't think it's going to be Cleveland. I just don't get that sense. Again, information, conversations. I think there's more love in the Giants building than there is in the Browns building for Shedeur, but I could be dead ass wrong. I truly could be. And Shedeur's going to work out privately for the Browns coming up. And he's got his pro day at Colorado.